Tonight we're going to run the crush at Clayhill Motorsports in Attwood, Tennessee. I want to get a little more extreme with the setup tonight, and of course, I want to show y'all everything I'm doing, right, wrong, good or bad. So I want to just walk you through that right quick. So check this out. Those of you that are subscribed and have your notifications turned on, you've been following along, and you know that we recently changed up. We went softer on the right front spring, heavier on the left front. I think that did help the car. So I've got a 750 on the right front, I've got an 850 on the left front. Now I've been running 300 pounds of rebound on the left front, and I've been running 500 pounds of rebound, I'm talking about the shocks, on the right front. And that has been working, and the direction on general setups that like Mr. J. Neal with BSB has been helping me with is, somewhere in, when I'm in that 700, 800, 900 pound spring range, around a 500 pound rebound shock is where I should be. And the car's been working, but I've been struggling to get the car, I've been just working on the setup, trying to figure out how to get the car through the middle, be on the throttle, and really get on the throttle coming off the turn. The car seems to always be able to get into the turn fine. It feels like that I've gotten that conquered, but I'm just not getting where I need to be middle off with the car. And it's been good and bad. When I was at the Nationals, I went to the extremes, trying to figure it out. But I've been staying with this 500 pound rebound on the right front. Well, I have an 800, and I was trying an 800 last season, and it did end up being too much, and the car just wasn't going anywhere. But I was running completely different springs on the rear of the car. The setup was completely different. And so the question that keeps coming back in my mind is, okay, is the 750 the right spring with a rubber in the bottom of the spring so that, I do ultimately, before I totally collapse the lower control arm into the frame, I get to like 2,100 pounds of spring load before that happens. And I've got that set up now on the car. I think that's right. But I'm switching out, and this shock here now is the 800 pound rebound. So that's the 800 Gorilla Fist. And when I look at the information that's being shared with me about matching shocks to springs, this is too much shock for a 750 pound spring. But I'm not satisfied with what's going on with the car. And the question in my mind is that, okay, do I need to be running a lot more load and wedge across the car, right front to left rear, run a lot more cross in the car, a lot more left rear bite in the car, a lot more preload on the chain, and compensate for that by having a stronger tie down shock on the front of the car, so that I've got all of this, wedge in the car, but I've got enough shock to hold it out of it until the timing will allow me to get the car, into the middle, and then it's going to release it slow enough that I can drive the car off, and ultimately I have got a ton of drive as I'm exiting the corner. And, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, maybe that's a piece of the puzzle that I'm missing. I know I'm going to a track tonight that I expect to go extremely dry slick. The last time we were there, we did okay. We finished second, but with only about 5 cars running. I could see that I was holding lap times always, and at points I was gaining on the leader. But I need more than that. I would have never passed the leader. I was nowhere near gaining on him enough, to be able to pass him. So I know I've got to step up my game. So we're going to 800 pound right here. And then on the left rear, come here, I want to show you that. All right, so a couple of things I changed back here on the left rear. So my chain was about right there. I got this breather tube that was in the way, and I was using a clamp over for it. And I couldn't quite get over as far as I felt like I needed to be. So I went and just made a bracket and welded on so that I could get right on this joint where the tube goes into the housing. I think this is the right spot. I'm kind of halfway between the spring and the center here. Now the reason I moved it on over a little bit more is because the action that the chain creates is that the spring load will transfer across. I don't want it to just stop the spring from being able to work. I want it to actually push spring load across. Well, it has to be like a seesaw, like a fulcrum, and this pivot point right here needed to move over some in order for me to be able to do that. So I think that's a better spot. Now we moved our spring location over so that we could get more action, but the other part of this, I put a lot more preload in this car. And I'm going to show y'all exactly what I've done, and we'll see what it does here in this video. But you need to remember, I am trying things because I'm not satisfied with the car. That doesn't mean that like you should just take what I'm doing and go do it on your car. I am not an expert. I'm just being completely honest about us racing. All right, so just keep that in mind, because some people will like copy what I'm doing and then wonder why they're not having success. Well, I'm not always having success either, right? So just keep that in mind. But this is a 16-inch 125 rate spring, and I have got it compressed on the chain. So this is the preload amount, the amount it's compressed while it's hanging on the chain, and it's at 13 inches. So I have 375 pounds of preload on this spring right now that can never come out. All right, now it doesn't go dead. You know, when it hits the spring, it hits the chain, it's not like it goes dead, because there's a gap between where this chain's at and where this spring is at. So it acts like a seesaw and it pushes load across. So the rear end still works when I hit the chain. It's just the chain becomes an additional like pivot point for the rear end. It makes the springs have to interact around that chain. All right, so I'm not saying that this is a good move, but in my mind, what I'm thinking here is I want to try having a lot of chain out here. So I've got 3.5 inches, and that's 3.5 inches from closer into the center. So that's actually more movement at the tire. So I'm allowing for a lot of climb in the car. I'm going to have a lot of preload at the top of that, but I'm putting a lot more rebound on the right front shock to compensate for that. You know, I'm going to pull the front of the car down harder, but I've got a lot more ability for the car to continue to make drive with the left rear way up in the air. Now, how that's going to turn through the middle? Stick around, we'll find out. So the car count's looking good. I think we got already 8 signed in for our class. So hopefully we're gonna have a pretty full race and everything. We gotta get out there and go roll the track down. They put a lot of water on the track. It's late in the year and it's cooling off, so they need help roll the track in. Let's get with it. We made some pretty big changes, so we're gonna hot lap it and make sure it ain't just out to lunch somewhere. So let's go see what it does in the hot laps. little bit when I pick the throttle up. I'm just gonna tighten up just a little bit on my linkage for the accelerator pump. That's all I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna change the jet or anything like that.
Hey, you got race pass? Yep. Subscription?
Oh, I need a 3/8 range. Where you got one at?
We got 3/8
Range, box pin.
Hang on. Y'all hold on. I'll raise that float ball a little bit too. I think it's just because it's a lot cooler. It's a little bit misty tonight, and it's like 60-something degrees, maybe high 50s. Just needs a little more fuel, so I just raised the float bowl up just a hair. I got from about halfway up to like 2/3 on the float bowl. And then, like I said, tighten the accelerator pump up where it's right into it as soon as I roll into the throttle. That's all I'm gonna do to it. I went 3.5 inches on my tether for the left rear, and I was definitely tight in. Car had a ton of drive, was fine coming off, but definitely was tight in. I'm gonna take it back to 3 because it definitely was not getting on that chain. So that's the only change there that I'm gonna make, but I had a ton of drive, that's for sure. So anyway, maybe it'll be good. That's hot laps, you know how that is. The track is really not nothing you can tell by during that period, but we gotta go, we gotta go. right, y'all, I finished 4th out of 8 in my heat. That's definitely better. That's definitely building a lot more drive. I couldn't really get in the throttle right through the middle of the turn, right down like I was doing. I was really catfishing. I tried it up in the middle and it was just so slick, and I jumped down there right on the bottom and was able to pass a couple cars right off the bat. And it was good. But like I said, then once everybody got up to speed and stuff, I was hoping that maybe I would be able to just pick off 2 more of those cars, but it wasn't going to happen because once they got stretched out, they were just as fast up in the slick. Let's see, the only other thing is the stumble. The stumble is a little better, but I was having to really make sure that I was like staying in that throttle. I had dropped the time back to about 32 degrees, and I had it up around 35, and I dropped it back to 32. May not be liking that quite as much. I think I'm going to bring it on up to probably about 34. I think 35, 36 where I had it was a little bit high. I'm going to say at 34 and see if that doesn't clear up a little bit of the acceleration stumble I've got. Other than that, I can't mess with the carburetor because hey, I don't want to have more carburetor problems. A little too much. I turned it down to 32, but then I checked it and it was down on about 30. You know, when you tighten the distributor down and it kind of, it's about 30, and I had a little stumble, you know, when I would pick the throttle up, and I thought she was just starving a little bit for fuel because it's cooled off, which I raised the float bowl and tightened up the accelerator pump, but the stumble was still there, so I think it's just the time was running a little low. I don't think this motor really wants a lot of time, but you know, apparently it wants more than 30 degrees. Well, you're coming about 38 like that. Well, I'm going back to 34. 34. Yeah. Well, the thing about it is those, you know, aftermarket, but I'm unfamiliar with the 85. I don't know if the 85
it likes it because it actually, with your E85, slows down your burn, so it doesn't hit as fast.
Run a hot spark plug. Right.
So it likes more time over gas.
So I probably went too far. Yeah. Well, I put 4 degrees back in it, so that should make a difference.
You said you put 4 back in it?
Yeah, I put 4. I was at 30. I come back to 34. So. Well, I had it up at about 36, and I broke the nose off the starter. So
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
That's not what you want.
No.
Car looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was up over there.
No, yeah, it was. I changed up a few things. I went with a little bit different setup on it, and just trying something different, and it was an improvement.
I mean, you looked really good coming out.
Yeah.
Both ends.
I was a little bit. My setup wasn't quite right to catfish the level I was. You know, really just running that inside berm and the car leaned back over. You know, but I mean, there was a lot of grip. You know, once I could get, but my car was literally leaned out. You know, like my left side was up on the berm because that's where the ground was. You know, but I mean, I couldn't build any drive until I would get off of that. There was drive there, but like, you know. laps in, that was definitely better. So I finished 3rd out of 8 cars, a couple of fast cars there, but definitely was working the car, you know, like the tie-down shock, putting 800 pounds of rebound on that right front. I was getting into the turn after tightening the chain up. It was getting into the turn fine. I would have liked to have been able to get on the throttle a little bit sooner. It's like I just kind of had to like give it a 1/4 inch of throttle and kind of drive around the bottom, and then as I was able to square up the steering wheel, I could start accelerating off. Of course, when I accelerated off, there was plenty of drive in the car. I could just really just light up into the car, and it would take it traction up and go. So that was nice. That was nice because I could pick up a ton of speed, and then that gave me a little bit more leeway to be able to break the car back down and slow it down and go back into the turn. So that was nice. That was different. I enjoyed that. If the car had not been, I say the car, if the track had been not quite so slick in the middle, or maybe if the car, if I'd had a little fresher tires on it, I feel like I probably could have rolled through the middle in that slick and really throttled up and tractioned off. Because the car was tractioning up in the slick pretty dadgum good. But you know, it was like coming into the turn, you know, I am on older tires. I went to get some new tires, and my buddy Gary at 45 Race Shop, he was out when I went to get tires. I think he's got more now. Probably need to go get a couple of tires before we go to this 5,000 to win race. But I'm leaving the setup alone on this car. I think it's better right now than it's been all year. Of course, I'm at the end of the season and running out of races to go to. That's usually when you get better. That's what happens. You run out of races about the time that you get the car working. All right, I'll see you next time.